My name is Lynx, and I like Touhou.
You fucking goddamn
Nani? Now, hear me out on this one. I don't only mean that I like Touhou for the characters, or just for the music, or just for the fan material. No, I like Touhou as a video game series. Although I don't know if that's exception or the norm anymore in the fandom these days. With that out of the way, I want to welcome you to Checkpoint Reached. I hope this becomes a sort of ongoing series where I review the games that I play through on my Twitch channel, or just games that I like. Well, I don't know if even review is the correct word, more like I play these games and I want to share my thoughts with you. Back when I was a freshman in high school, a friend linked me to a video on Nico Douga. It was a preview video for MegaMari, which at the time reminded me of the Crown Quest. I had to actually Google if it was related to the Crown Quest, if that was a series that was going on in Japan at the time, and I had no idea. But no, it just was part of a series I had never heard about before, Touhou. It was my gateway not only to Touhou but to the Doujin scene as a whole. It only made sense to me when I began doing Let's Plays to first tackle MegaMari as my gateway to that whole world, and then now to actually make it my first review. For those who don't know what Touhou is, the Touhou is a bullet hell series, a scrolling shoot 'em up, essentially Gradius with the vertical scrolling of Galaga and with waifus instead of spaceships. It was created by the wonderful and absolute madman Jun'ya, best known by his nickname Zun. The Touhou series began development in 1995, got a preview showing in November 1996, and finally hit the scene at Comiket 52 in 1997, being sold alongside its already made sequel. Soon, what the hell? Over 16 main series games, various spin-offs, an expansion to one of these spin-offs, a bunch of official manga, media written by Zun himself, and almost 22 years as of this recording, the Touhou series has grown exponentially into a franchise with fans not only in its native Japan but also overseas, all helmed by a single man with a dream and a lifetime supply of Kirin beer. I could go on about Touhou, its music, its insane difficulty and characters, but let's go back to the game at hand, MegaMari. MegaMari is Tasofro's love letter to both Touhou and the Mega Man series. Now, Mega Man is a name I hope needs no introduction thanks to his inclusion in Super Smash Bros., the series revival with the well-received Mega Man 11, and the current Blue Bomber's animated adventures in Mega Man Fully Charged. If you're somehow unfamiliar with Mega Man, let's just say Blue Astro Boy shoots lemons at Albert Einstein's War Machines for everlasting peace. MegaMari was released in May 22, 2006, and it takes elements from the classic Mega Man games on the NES, in specific Mega Man 2, although it also takes elements from different games in the Mega Man multi-series. It has a dual character system seen in Mega Man X-Treme 2, X7 and X8. Only one of the two characters can get the boss's weapon akin to Mega Man 2, the Power Fighters in the arcades. There are weapon tanks that refill weapon energy and the elusive Mega Tank that refills health and every weapon from the later games in the classic series. There's also what is essentially the top spin from Mega Man 3, sans a funky hitbox. Just saying. The story is as simple as the classic Mega Man games. Kleptomaniac Marisa Kirisame, ordinary magician, enjoys looting the Scarlet Devil's mansion library with regularity. The library's librarian, Pacholin Knowledge, is fed up with having her books stolen, so she takes the library to quote-unquote another world of her own creation and enlists 8 girls who have issues with Marisa. Marisa drags fellow magician Alice Margatroyd to loot the library-turned fortress in Pacholin's world and also loot the 8 guardians protecting the fortress access. True to the classic Mega Man series, upon starting a new game you'll be greeted with a stage select screen to choose one of 8 bosses: Reimu Hakurei, Chirno, Sakuya Isayoi, Yomo Konpaku, Yuyuko Sayoji, Remilia Scarlet, Reisen Udongen Inaba, and Eirin Yagokoro. Yes, those are names. You'll get 8 weapons in total from these girls, plus the Magic Room, Marisa's version of Item 2, and the slightly awesome Shanghai Doll, Alice's version of Beat but nowhere near as useful. And I mean literally 8 weapons. Your best advice to spread the weapons evenly, or trust me, one of these girls is going to get screwed in the fortress. Every stage has very clean graphics, walking a thin line between sprite work and high resolution artwork. Let's dub these for 16 bits. The enemies, projectiles, and the player and special weapons all pop out from the backgrounds. Nothing gets truly lost in all the insanity you expected to traverse upon. It's almost like an interactive cartoon before the age of actual higher resolution sprite games like Wario Land Shake It or Shantae Half-Genie Hero. While certainly the resolution and the screen size are dated by today's standards, the art direction is practically timeless and still looks amazing with all the detailing and shading in the assets used. It is clear that the developers had a ton of care for this game's colorful art direction. If anything, it's a shame there are no actual underwater stages to see transparency effects or palette changes reflecting the element change seen in post-NES Mega Man games. Given it is a game that is over a decade old by now, it have no problems or issues running on a modern machine. And even then, since it's an independent production aimed at the Japanese market, whom aren't known to use PCs for anything other than work, it isn't a game that would ask much of a computer back then. 60 frames per second, no drops, no NES slowdown, the action remains fast-paced and stable throughout, as it should given the amount of dodging you'll be asked to do. Part of this, however, might be because stuff on street barely animates. Marisa herself only has 3 frames run cycle, 1 jump frame, 2 frames standing for a blink animation, and the same applies to Alice, while the enemies have 2 or 3 frames and bosses have around 5. On one hand, the graphics are so detailed as usual of Tazo Fro one would want to see more animations like the ones they do in their fighting games. On the other hand, given how this is a nod to NES Mega Man, which also had limited animation frames, it is clear this is in fact an artistic choice, a reminder of bygone days of memory limitations. The sound direction is amazing. The sound effects do a good job at being a lawyer-friendly Mega Man repertoire with the door opening sound, Marisa's shot, the deflection of projectiles, and the weapon gets screens. But even more praiseworthy is the soundtrack. The Touhou series is widely known to have some excellent compositions by Jun himself since he has a major in music. Such is its fame that every comic there's more and more Doujin cover albums of Jun's work. MegaMari's composer, Enkes Zeto, is no slouch either, however, giving each track a very distinct Touhou feel or character-fitting feeling, from the organ in Vermeer's stage to the Japanese flutes in Yuyuko's stage. He also seems to add his own lawyer-friendly version of themes from Mega Man 2 into the mix. Rainbow's stage takes cues from Woodman and Airman, while Patchy's Fortress map is obviously a spoof of Mega Man 2 and Mega Man 9's Skull Castle Fortress map, accentuating the visual note to it, only to then receive us with Patchy's stage number 1, which is this game's not too wily stage 1 theme. The gameplay itself is classic Mega Man through and through. You run, you jump, and you shoot. Man. The game actually gives you a handicap of 2 separate life bars, one for Marisa Kirisame and one for Arliss Margatroyd. Marisa has the usual buster and her hitbox seems to be the size of her body. She'd be your go-to character for any seasoned Mega Man fan. Alice, on the other hand, has a continuous laser that does multiple hits and goes all the way through the screen. As surprising as this may sound, at a distance it is really weak, requiring you to get near enemies to do actual decent damage. However, it has the advantage of going through shields and solid objects. Now, you may be thinking, I played lots of classic Mega Man, this is going to be easy peasy. Well lad, you don't know the horror. Unless you played Mega Man 9 and done all the chivos, but even then, this game is hard, and I don't mean hyperbolic hard nor oh no, limited lives unfair hard, no. This game wants your blood. It's not even asshole enemy placement or the level design, those are actually standard Mega Man fare for the most part. No, it's a Danmaku, the bullet hell, the core principle of Touhou is part of this game and you're expected to avoid as much damage as possible while jumping and shooting. Granted, if you grab the right weapon and the right character, it might ease your journey, but even then, are you capable of beating the boss who has a weapon you need? Can you survive their bullet patterns? Do you even know which character gets a weapon you need from which boss? The game knows plenty of ways to screw you over before you even get on a fetal position and mutter "Yamero" defenseless on your first playthrough. You see, in the core Touhou games, by keeping left shift pressed down on the keyboard, you enter focus mode, in which you move more slowly, your shots focus on a smaller spread, and you can see your literal hitbox, aiding you in dodging the many bullets you'll be seeing on your screen. You get none of that in MegaMari, you just jump and shoot, and that's why I brought up the hitbox earlier. They're my estimate of their size, and even then sometimes I'm not sure anymore. As for the enemies in the game, besides the usual Touhou fairies and mates coming in groups to unleash barrages of bullets at you, there's also the Kedamas who take the place of various Mega Man enemies and obstacles such as Meteors and Blockies, as well as other Touhou characters taking the place of stronger enemies such as Jun'ya, who functions identical to a hologram enemy from Mega Man 3, the Prince River Sisters who can only be attacked when they attack like a Sniper Joes, China, Mei Ling, who will keep pursuing you and attacking you like that damned wolf from the DOS Mega Man game, and oh god, they will stop! The game does not have save files, instead it goes for a password system reminiscent of Mega Man 2. Unlike most classic Mega Man games, however, this password does not save how many tanks you had and they're all hidden. And you also lose them if you hit game over, and the game is really stingy with 1-ups. These factors raise the difficulty level of the game rather unnecessarily. If you play the classic Mega Man games, then you know that the norm is that Dr. Wily's fortress is a gauntlet that must be beaten in one sitting. The same principle is applied here, but with extreme difficulty. While thankfully there's no Beam Trap Room boss who needs a specific weapon and a specific pattern to defeat, the game's difficulty escalates exponentially. The first fortress boss, Yukari Yakumo, is basically the game telling the player "Fuck you and any fun you may be having with this game. The tricky platforming being aided by Ran and Chen at the same time, and her weakness being mental sacrifice, the worst weapon of this game, makes this fight an actual mental sacrifice. Seriously, who at Tasoforo thought this fight was a good idea? To elaborate, Mental Sacrifice is a much worse version of Astro Crush. While Astro Crush is a weapon from Mega Man 8 that covers all the screen, Mental Sacrifice only works behind you, and it's only one. Whoever designed this boss fight deserves to be kicked in the dick. The worst part is before getting to Yukari, you also have to go through Quickman lasers, and the timing is very strict unless you have 1000 knives. Later in the fortress, the two girls get separated into their own stages, thus if you favor one girl over the other, then fuck you, start the game all over again. Thankfully, the fortress later stages contain their own hidden routes and even a hidden mega tank, which means the developers knew how aggravating this was. Past the usual teleport room gauntlet with all 8 bosses from the game, you'll fight Pacholi, and she really puts a fight, fittingly for the last boss. Here's a hint: if you use 1000 Knives, the flash topper analog weapon, you can bypass her first fight in both Pachi Stage 5 and Pachi Stage 6, giving you a chance to keep your life and weapon energy. Interestingly, although not as bad as Mega Man X6, the final Pachi boss gives you a breather by not being too difficult if you got the right weapon. That is not to say that it is not challenging, god no, kicking the player in the balls is the name of the game here. It's just that by this point you'd seen worse. Beat it and you'll finally beat the game, steal the books from the library, and see that Pachi in the end got the last laugh by trashing Marisa's house with her hero fall. Huh. If you are good enough that you don't die, MegaMari will last you about 3 hours of playtime, the average length of a non-speedrun. However, with its difficult challenge, the fact that you have many possible combinations of weapons for your duo given the total of 16 special weapons which may work both to your help and detriment, and secrets to find, it's fair to say this will give you days if not weeks of playtime plus replayability. What if I took Aiden's weapons with Marisa and not Alice, that sort of thing. MegaMari is hard, really hard, but at the same time it's cathartic when you finish a stage. The controls are tight and responsive, much like the actual Mega Man games, but the difficulty spike and the bullet patterns might put off players of it. However, if you are a well-seasoned Mega Man fan afraid of no challenge, or a Touhou fan who wants to try a different experience, it is completely recommended. It is hard, it is borderline unfair, but it's not a bad game, and certainly not an impossible or Kaizo game either. A flawed gem, one will say, and one I hope Tasofro revisits for a sequel someday.
Although if you're a Touhou fan, chances are you already beat it and are ready to do damage runs or buster only runs off.
Thank you so much for watching. Once again, I am Lynx and this is my first formal game review. I played through MegaMari with my friend Alraz and the playthrough is here in my channel. Just to go off on a tangent for a moment, Checkpoint was a short-lived radio show I used to have with my friend and co-host Howler where we discussed video games as video game related events. Circumstances didn't allow for the show to continue, but I'd like to give him a shout out for letting me keep the channel, and thanks to all my friends who supported me to do this thing. Thank you guys for your support. If you like this review, please punch the subscribe button, I do intend to do more reviews. In the future, see ya!